Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Rivamy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are continuing some host favorite picks, which is what we've been doing because some movies got moved around because the world's not normal yet.
We had to fill in a little time. We're vamping.
We're
basically vamping because our vampire movie got moved.
Oh.
Vamping for vampires.
Vamping.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
I see.
Morbius, you can use that if you weren't already filmed, but you've already been filmed.
You can do reshoots nowadays.
You know what? I would like a credit, but you can have it.
You know what? I'll send the director a green screen footage of me saying it, which they can then insert into anything. You could Tig Notaro me into Morbius. You know what? Replace Jared Leto with me. Let's do that. How about that?
I would rather replace him with Tig Notaro.
Let's
I'll replace anyone with Tig Notaro.
All right. Let me be the sidekick to Tig.
Oh, beautiful.
And insert us all into the movie.
Excellent.
Yes.
We're all in Morbius now. It will never come out.
That's right. Jared Leto has been replaced by Tig Notaro. The role of Jared Leto will be played by Tig Notaro. And the new sidekick of Tig will be me, and the sidekick of me will be Diana.
Excellent.
Okay.
Oh, double sidekick. Excellent. Like a sidekick squared? Oh, the dream.
I knew that was a compliment to you, and I was hoping our audience would know as well.
Oh, guys.
Not insulting to make you the sidekick
Not
of sidekicks.
at all. This is like when you get a dog for your dog. And I also love dogs. That's also a compliment.
It's all a win.
It's all a win. We're doing a pick for me.
We're doing a Diana pick.
We're doing a Diana pick. Last week we did Rumble in the Bronx with an Andrew pick. This week we are doing A Knight's Tale, a Diana pick, because knights are heroic.
They are.
I love this movie.
It's a favorite. We don't need to justify ourselves.
No, it's a favorite. It's a movie I love. It's a movie I've always loved, and I'm excited to talk about it. And then next week we also are vamping a little bit.
Yes. So next week, what we are going to be doing, this is going to be the last kind of rearrange, hopefully, ? And then,
no guarantee.
And then we'll get back to a normal schedule? ? So next week we are going to do a fan pick. So the Uncharted movie is coming out soon, which we hopefully in a few weeks will be covering on the podcast. We'll see if movie theaters in Canada are open.
They're completely closed, you guys.
They're like,
this isn't a do we feel safe? They're not open here.
They're not open. Also, we wouldn't necessarily feel safe. So next week we are doing an audience vote. So you can go vote right now over on our Patreon page. You don't have to be a patron. Anyone can vote. So over at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, that's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, there will be a poll for next week's episode. It's up right now. And because Uncharted is coming out, we're doing other find the treasure hunting movies.
Treasure hunting movies. Pleasure treasure.
Pleasure treasure. Okay.
Just like I take pleasure in treasure hunting movies. So
I see what you're
think
saying.
they're fun. I don't think I've ever seen one I didn't like.
So what you can vote on is National Treasure 2,
Woo!
Pirates of the Caribbean,
Woo!
Goonies,
Woo!
or Indiana Jones.
Woo! Those are some great movies to pick from. They all got a genuine woo.
Fun bangers there.
Bangers.
Those are the four options: National Treasure 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, Goonies, or Indiana Jones. You can head over to patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, and whether or not you're a patron, you can vote in the poll and decide what we're going to be doing next week on the podcast. And then after that, the schedule will be getting back to normal, and we'll be doing Book of Boba Fett, and then Peacemaker, and then potentially Uncharted.
We'll definitely do the TV shows.
That'll be no trouble.
The shows, they've aired.
Smooth sailing.
No problem. We have a TV.
So go hit up the vote for next week. But in the meantime, we're doing favorites. We're doing A Knight's Tale. Let's get into it. Let's talk about A Knight's Tale.
Ba-ba-da-bow.
All right, we have watched A Knight's Tale since it's a Diana fave. You for the manyth time.
Many times.
Me for the first time, beginning to end. I had only seen segments of this movie.
Did not know that before we sat down, actually, because you knew parts of it, so I'd gotten the impression that you'd watched it all. And when you were like, I've never seen it end, I was like, oh. Oh my.
This is just a TV scenes at a time is all I'd ever seen of this. But we normally ask the question of, did you like it? Obviously, you like it. But Diana, let's start with the question of, like, why is this a favorite for you?
This has been a favorite for a really long time. It came out when I was in like mid-high school. And it's a movie that I love. Like, it's like very comforting and pleasant. Like, there's a few big laughs, but you're just like entertained the whole time. And the comedy is very good. But the drama is equally good. And it's all this really nice. It's like not for kids, but it's wholesome and nothing ever gets too dark or too silly. It finds the perfect balance for me of what it is. And it's also just very bromancy, and I love a bromance. There's so many friends in this movie, but it's also very poetic. The Chaucer stuff, the stuff with the Black Prince, there's just a lot of poetry happening and a great story. Like, I grew up, I was very poor. I was at a point when this movie came out, I was like, I don't know if I can afford university. I don't know if I can accomplish anything. And this was actually a genuinely inspiring movie for me. So I think it's really good. I think the comedy's good. The drama's good. I think 90% of the performances are good. There are some cracks in it that I didn't notice when I watch it alone, for reasons I'll explain. So it's like not as perfect as I recalled, but it's a very comforting, pleasant movie for me, and I love A Knight's Tale. Andrew, did you like A Knight's Tale?
Yeah, I really liked it.
Yay!
I think it's great. I think it is far smarter than it has any need or right to be. I think it's a very clever movie, very intelligently written. I agree, for the most part, very well performed. I think that maybe it has one too many storylines going on. I was shocked to see this was a 2-hour movie.
2 hours 12. It does not need to be 2 hours 12. I agree.
Especially for the genre it is, the year it came out. This could be a 90-minute movie. That might be too aggressive, but I think like an hour 50, 20 minutes could easily kind of be cut from this movie. So it's a little bloated, but other than that, I do really like it, and I had a lot of fun watching the whole thing.
That's great, because I was wondering when we got to the end of the very first tournament, and you were like, so this movie's almost over, right? You were like, he's gonna win the tournament, and he's got a girlfriend. It's gonna be. I'm like, oh no, there's like 8 more tournaments.
The middle act of the movie does kind of bide time. Like the story structure, I would say, is the sloppiest thing. Like scene to scene, I like a lot of the dialogue writing. Everyone's very charismatic. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of charm. But when it reaches towards the end of Act 1, like the beginning of this movie moves at such a fast pace.
There's a montage like 5 minutes in, very Rocky-esque, just like.
The movie opens with like, we never even meet the original knight. Like the movie opens past the inciting incident where it's like, the knight's dead. You never met him? Fucking forget about him. Heath Ledger.
We will not be mourning Sir Ector. Sir Ector is just gone. Don't even worry about it.
That's not even a human actor. That was a dummy in a suit of armor. We didn't even hire a human. It is no one. Forget them.
Even though it was a man that they knew for 12 years.
Right?
Like, an important figure in their lives. And they're just like mad he shit himself to death.
Did they just leave his corpse by the river to be eaten by wolves?
Because they don't really get into the corpse.
They undressed him and took his armor and shit.
And then they just went on the road with their gold.
Yeah, I think they just left a naked corpse of their 12-year-long friend.
Who like gave them money and like kept them fed and housed and employed.
And maybe he was a dick they all disliked and obviously was a drunk asshole to some degree. I don't know. Mm-hmm. I think the implication was that he drank too much. Maybe he drank some tainted water and shit himself to death. Who knows?
Oh, it's got to happen.
But it starts at such a fast pace for the middle act of this movie to get stretched out. Because, yes, at the end of Act 1, when they have, like, William is now about to fight Adamar. Mm-hmm. And it's like, this is the rivalry. They both are courting the same woman. They both will not yield or back down.
It's the poor versus the rich.
Here is the fight. And then it happens. And Adamar's like, all right, I got to go fuck off for the second act.
Yeah, I got to go to war.
Yeah, and then he's like, oh, okay, I guess I'm going to go. And then, like, William has to be like, I guess I'm going to go buy time for the second act and have a slight fight with my romance and then pretend that didn't happen. And then, so, like, a really weirdly stretched out middle.
It is a weirdly stretched out middle. The reason I said earlier that I haven't noticed these cracks before is I will fully admit, when I watch this movie alone, I skip about 4 of the Jocelyn scenes. just full on skip them. Any Jocelyn scene that's just Jocelyn and Will, I pretty much always am just like, yeah, I don't care if they dance. I don't care about the stuff in the church. I don't care about this stuff in a second church. I don't care about their sex scene. And it really makes the movie move along at a pace. It really helps pick it up. Yeah. Because I was sitting there watching it this time and I was like, oh, this movie is kind of long, huh? And I'm like, oh, right. I'm not skipping the parts I don't like. Yeah. Because Jocelyn doesn't work.
No,
I want to get my negative out of the way right off the top.
Okay, all right. I wasn't sure if we wanted to get into positive and delay.
No, because it's gonna be uphill from here.
Sure.
This is the only thing in the movie that I will say doesn't work pretty much end to end is Jocelyn. Like, I like that he has a love interest. I think about half of her scenes can be cut. Like, all the ones I skip over, I don't think you need. I don't need any of the part where he has to lose the tournament for her. That's about 15 minutes you just don't need. He can just apologize and they can be back together. Mm-hmm. And it just doesn't work, any of her stuff for me. I find it weird that she is the only one made completely modern.
What do you mean?
Well, they give her a lot more modern looks and stuff. Like, her outfits are much more modern. Her hair has ringlets that are impossible and then it's stuck up it's clearly got hairspray in it.
There were
in a fabric choices that they did not have back then, but no one else is like that. Like, the music is like that, but no other people are like that.
I can agree with that. She felt. I think the problem with her, yes, the fashion and everything definitely felt, I would almost say postmodern. I clocked her a couple of times where she felt like watching Padme in the Star Wars prequels.
Ooh, yeah, that first outfit with the white pointy hat.
Yeah, where it's I get that you are richer than the main characters that we see, so you can afford more outlandish costumes. And the movie does something that I actually quite enjoy, which is this modernization. Whether it's Jocelyn or Kate, they have green and purple hair, hair dyes that people didn't have, and they've Alan Tudyk's character is rocking a gold Cuban links chain at one point. And it's just it's things where I'm okay, it's a fun modernization, playfully done. But with Jocelyn's looks, a lot of them were going to a Met Gala, and the Met Gala's theme was the year 3000. It was beyond modern, which did make it pretty stark.
Yeah, everyone else's were so more subtle, and you could kind of forgive them. Even Heath Ledger is wearing this, not quite a puka shell, but a plasticky, really tight collary necklace, which is very, very modern. But no one's entire look is modern like hers is.
Yes.
And then even when even the most modern stuff surrounds her for some reason, when they go to the dance and it starts out with the old-timey dancing and then they do full-on footloose dancing.
Yeah.
And I'm well, why do you only exist in this little modern world?
In this modern bubble.
When William is really the one pushing the modern world as a man who is taking his own place in it as a poor guy forcing his way into the hierarchy.
And this is the main problem with the character of Jocelyn as it's written, because there's writing problems. I think performance-wise is also a problem. It's the weakest performance.
It's not great. No,
it's not really anything. But I think writing-wise, she also isn't giving anything to work with, because it is written as a character who looks pretty, and the writing has no other depth at all to this character, to the point where it's Adamar is trying to speak to the king and arrange their marriage. But I'm I don't know Jocelyn's title. Who's Jocelyn related to? Jocelyn does not have a job, wants, or needs. She's clearly of a royal lineage, and everything in her life is taken care of. And she does not have to do anything other than travel wherever she wants to be to see whatever she wants until she is arranged to be arranged into a political marriage. But what is her opinion on that? She doesn't seem to have one. She is just a floating pretty face who exists and at times challenges our lead character by randomly asking him to lose and then randomly and without motivation asking him to win again. But it is still just her living vicariously through giving the lead character tasks. I don't know what her opinion on all. It seems like she doesn't like violence, but to what end? Does she want to be a queen who doesn't win through fighting other kingdoms but creating alliances with them? What is her perspective on the world? I know Williams is a world without class.
Yes.
And wanting to break the traditions of the system. Everyone has an opinion in this except Jocelyn.
She doesn't have much of one. What I do, I actually find she has two strong opinions.
Okay.
That the movie hilariously ignores, because her strongest opinion is that she wants a man who listens to what she has to say. She's like, William, tell me poetry. I want to hear poetry. I don't have to just do what you want to do. My time is also valuable. She says Adamar wants to speak with me, and she's like, not to hear a word I say. And she's like, my kind are known for their silence. Like, she wants a man who will listen to what she has to say. But she has nothing to say.
Right.
Is the problem. She has no opinion. Her only opinion is listen to what I'm saying. She never, exactly what you're saying. She never has an opinion about if we should have jousts, if we should have wars, if we should have class structures. She doesn't get into any of that. Mm-hmm. But she does. She wants to vote, but she doesn't know what she's voting for. Right. She hasn't picked a lane,
right.
But she wants the ability to vote, basically, is what I'm getting at. And she wants to marry for love.
Right. When she wants William to lose, she doesn't want William to lose because these adoring fans are chanting for bloodlust, and she wants to see... She wants the people of her kingdom to see a peaceful option.
No.
She just wants him to get hit and give up, because that would then show that he listened to the thing that she said, and it has no greater impact among her peoples or society.
It is purely for her. And I don't even mind, like, I don't think we need this part of the movie, but I do like her putting him in his place in that way of being like, you've turned into all the guys you hated at the beginning of this movie.
Right.
Like, you saw a slew of men say they would win this tournament for me, and then as soon as you got a little bit of money, you became the exact same man. So I liked her putting him in his place and making him realize he became what he hate. I've become what I hate, and you don't want that. But yeah, I also wonder if she didn't mean you have to actually get hit and you could just forfeit the tournament.
He could have just forfeited.
She never said get hit with a bunch of lances.
Brutalize your body. Yeah.
With like 8 different. She also could have went before, like after the first match. Mm-hmm. She could have gone down and been like, okay, that's a lot of lances.
You're going to die. You can cool it a little bit on this one.
It was like 6 fights worth of lances to the chest.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jocelyn is the down point of the film, unfortunately.
And then just like a quick side thing too. Jocelyn's maid, servant, friend, Christina, they are identical. They are absolutely identical in these are if one actress got the flu and needed to take a week off filming, that was the other thing that gave me strong Padme from the Star Wars prequel vibes.
This woman is
where
my
it's like they've got Natalie Portman and Keira Knightley, and they've made them look 100. I honestly thought there was going to be a subplot where they were going to switch in order to sneak in somewhere because they are the exact same person in face. And her servant is, or maid or whatever, is supposed to be French. Uh-huh. And that actress only does a French accent 50% of the time, and the other time forgets. So they also sound the same. So, like, when Heath Ledger is, like, walking through the town and being like, wow, a beauty of which I've never seen, the sun in the sky, I've never seen anyone like that. And the camera cut to what I thought legitimately for the first 30 minutes were twins. I thought they were twins. I thought they were both princesses until it reached a point when Jocelyn gave the other one an order. And I was like, oh, you're not twins. But it really does undercut the, like, never have I seen a beauty like you. And it cuts to 2 women. I'm like, I don't know which one is the character he's talking to.
Yeah, that is a great point, because you can't be like the beauty of the fucking Europe if your maid is just as pretty as you.
Right.
Like, all those guys walking by who just are like catcalling would also be catcalling your Christiana.
Yes.
They would be like, hey, and she's cute. Oh man. Yeah, you have to have the ugly friend, or at least like dirty her up. Like, she's a maid. She's not your sister. She's not royalty.
It's like if Jessica Chastain played Helen of Troy and then Bryce Dallas Howard played Helen of Troy's secretary. It's like, you're the same woman. You're the same. What are we doing here?
I mean, you're never gonna get a better example than what you said with Padme and her
Keira
decoy.
Knightley,
They're
yeah.
like they look exactly the same. They are switcherooed,
Yeah.
and they should have switcherooed in this movie.
They absolutely should.
Yeah, it didn't highlight that she was just some unattainable jewel when it's like everyone's that pretty, because they do a great job with the dudes, which have like a really hierarchy of cuteness to them. Like
Yes.
Heath Ledger's clearly.
Heath Ledger's the cute one.
Heath Ledger's the cute one, and then the others are cute in their own way.
Yeah, like human being Paul Bettany is as cute as Heath Ledger, but he is naked and covered in literal shit when we first meet him, which is not a cute look. So like he's a problem boy.
It's an acquired taste.
It's an acquired
the
taste.
Paul Bettany Chaucer boy. Yeah, and then like Mark Addy's somebody's type. He's cute, and
Absolutely.
then Watt is also somebody's type.
Yep.
But then Kate the blacksmith is the cutest girl in this.
Oh, hands down, Kate's a unbelievable cutie
Kate is
and a wonderful character.
a super cutie, unbelievable. Who plays her? She's in Breaking Bad. She's the Stevia girl. Laura
Fraser. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Fraser.
she is so cute. I like that she's a blacksmith. I like that she doesn't end up with anyone. She's just part of the crew.
She's awesome.
Not even a romance.
Solid.
Just they're a traveling blacksmith.
Solid character who is underexplored. I like the whole crew. Paul Bettany is the star of this movie. Let's get into some positives. Paul Bettany, no disrespect to Heath Ledger, rest in peace, does a phenomenal job in this. Bettany is the highlight, steals every scene.
Paul Bettany is the love of my life in this movie. This movie I chose as a love because it's the rare movie that I like for like talent in film, and there's no cute boys in it for me. Paul Bettany is kind of my like talent cute boy. I'm like, I'm into you for your talent reasons, not because you're like, I look at like pinup photos of you when I was in high school. Like I didn't have any posters of Paul Bettany, but whenever I see him act, I'm like, oh my God, swoon. Yeah, he steals everything. Oh, and guys, in case you don't know, he has 2 entire speeches that were cut that are available on YouTube. So if you are like, Chaucer's amazing, his introductions were so good, there's 2 more waiting for you on YouTube. And also there's a 3rd one on the DVD that I had to check out, and it's different, and it was a wild adventure for me that evening.
We need to find a way to rip it and get it on YouTube.
I
for the
actually
fans.
because I watched the YouTube deleted scene, and I was like, I don't remember it being like this. Like, there's lines missing. So then I had to pop in my goddamn special edition DVD, and I'm like, there's a 3rd deleted scene. Wild. The internet hasn't found it. It's just for me.
A phenomenal performance, a clever idea of the character too. Like this movie, going back to like what I said off the top, that this movie is more clever than it has any need to be. The fact that this movie is a historical fanfic about the missing year of Chaucer's life
Right?
is so stupidly unnecessary, but somehow it's not at all distracting. It's all vibes, just fun, no pretension, even though it is the most unnecessary thing imaginable.
And it is a thing that you normally hate, which is at the end, we're going to write it all down. And because there is a chapter of the Canterbury Tales called A Knight's Tale, which is what like the idea is. Like, well, the year he was missing, this is what happened. But it's just so fun. It's just such a fun idea, especially because he's not the main character.
Yeah.
So this isn't the story of the missing year of Chaucer's life. This is the story of Heath Ledger's character, but also let's just slide in the missing year of Chaucer's life.
Because technically, it adds nothing.
No, nothing at all. You don't even have to know.
If this wasn't Chaucer, if this was just like Paul Bettany plays Brian, who is a bard and a writer, and he's a charming guy who has a gambling problem, all the character beats are there. The movie does not change one iota. But it's just so fun that it's totally unnecessary. I don't know why there is an X factor that's charming about it.
It's fun because it's not distracting, even if you don't know anything about Chaucer. It's not like when we get like Marvel Easter eggs and it's like, oh man, if you've read Infinity War number 68, that was a huge deal. But like this is, if you don't know anything about Chaucer, the movie absolutely works. If you do know anything about Chaucer, extra fun.
Actually, well, you don't need to know that much. Like, there's no added value from having recently read the Canterbury Tales.
None whatsoever.
There is no, it is just like, it's Chaucer. What do you want?
It's Chaucer. What do you want? And his performance is just phenomenal. The introductions, the yelling. One of the deleted scenes is my favorite. It's he convinces the crowd not to hurt William at the stocks. Brian Helgeland, I've listened to the audio commentaries. Writer-director Brian Helgeland explains in the audio commentaries he cut it for good reason because it looked like the prince didn't save William until the crowd had already decided not to hurt him. And it made the prince kind of look like a jerk for waiting so long. So they cut the speech. Which I get thematically. But yeah, and also like the performance, the drama, the comedy beats when he just fucking shoves Watt off the thing after he tries to go after Adamar. And the way he just rushes into frame and just shoves him. He's like, noble victory.
Noble victory. Good match, my lord. Good match. Good match, my lord.
So funny. Oh my God. Yeah. Which is weird because I don't even think of Paul Bettany as a comedic actor for the most part. I'm like, Alan Tudyk, comedic actor. Mark Addy, comedic actor. Yep. And then I'm like, oh, but Paul Bettany's the funniest guy in this. Weird.
And even though, obviously, we had huge praise for him in WandaVision, and WandaVision has a lot of comedic beats, even though it is in many regards a tragedy. Like he had a lot of great comedy. Like him doing the magic show as Vision with gum inside of him was just a delightful farce. So, but this made me really want, I want more comedy Paul Bettany. This is a real delight. He absolutely owns it. And this character is just such a delightful interpretation of the bard, of the writer, of Chaucer, of this type of person in the group, in the sense that, he's so unafraid of everything going on in the world, and yet he understands the consequences of everything so much more than anyone else. He understands all of the rules of the society that they live in, and understanding the rules has made him realize that the game is a joke. He is someone who's seen the Matrix code of a caste-based society and is like, oh yeah, it's all a farce, and is having fun with how severe the world they live in is. Whereas the other characters are relatively naive to that.
Yeah, they're like, we have to stay in our lanes for the most part, or mildly cheat and pretend we're staying in our lanes. And he's just like, I do whatever I want. You don't even know this, but I'm actually related to the Black Prince. Keep that on the down low. It doesn't even come up.
Right.
He's kind of just weaving through the world. But as you said, though, he does know some of the consequences. I think it's a big deal when he also tells William to run. He's like, I love fucking with society. I love fucking with the monarchy. Love what William's doing here. But you also need to run now. You've been caught.
Yeah.
We gotta cut out of here. So it's a big deal for his character to get there. And it really highlights that William is defying all logic for what he believes in at this point. Yeah.
The other thing I really liked about this movie is I love the father storyline.
Oh my God, it just will grab you in the guts. That reunion scene. Sometimes I'm like, it's rare, but every now and then if you need a cry, if you're I got to get something out, what's going to make me cry? I just think of the reunion scene in A Knight's Tale when he's like, has he followed his feet? Has he come home? And they hug. Oh, yeah, this father storyline's beautiful.
Yeah, really, really good. I feel like I love it. It's weird how late it kind of comes in. It comes
Very
in
late.
A little too late in the section of the movie where it drags. It ends up having some of the best payoff and being the best storyline. But I almost feel like it needs to bookend the movie. It should start, the movie should start with William being sent away. As opposed to a random flashback as William is hit. I forget what point in the movie, but
it's the first fight with Adamar.
Yeah. So I think that a flashback while struck isn't the most valuable time for that. But I love the story. I love the payoff. And just a beautiful... When he's talking to the kid and finds out his father is still alive and there, rips my heart out.
Rips your heart out. It is one of the only stories of a parent abandoning a child that is heartwarming. He genuinely gave up his son for a better life. He's like, you're going to make money as this squire. This guy's got money. You're going to see the world. This is a life I can't give you. It's genuinely kind of the right thing to do, obviously, because William's got a great life now. But that's heartbreaking that you just, and also in this day and age when you can't get letters, you can't get phone calls, you're just like, sure hope he's alive out there.
He walked away and that was it.
That's all we ever saw of William. Yeah, it's a heartbreaking story. It's so well done. Yeah, and the dad being there at the end and he's like, your dad heard your name announced as Sir William Thatcher. Fuck.
I like him switching back to his original name at the end. That is a nice payoff.
Gotcha.
It's a beautiful storyline. Not where I expected any of it to go, really, at the beginning of the movie when he's taking over a false identity. It doesn't feel like his original name has power. So yeah, I think I would have liked it seeded a little bit better, but once I realized that that's going to be meaningful to the story, it does hit really hard when it does hit.
Yeah, I think that is one of the sneakiest things of this movie, the payoff of him showing mercy to Prince Edward twice. Or showing mercy and then showing respect, I guess, because he shows him mercy by letting him finish the first fight even though he was hurt without forfeiting. And then he shows him respect by dueling him even though he knew he was Prince Edward. So like it's like it seems like it's just part of the movie until Edward comes back at the end. He's like, this guy's a fucking knight. I've seen him show mercy. I've seen him show honor. I've seen him show pride. Like he's got all the knightly attributes.
Right.
It's really nicely seated in of how this is going to figure itself out at the end. Yeah, and it's a beautiful story. And it is my absolute favorite line in the entire movie is when the Black Prince is at the stocks and he says, your men love you. If I knew nothing else about you, that would be enough. Fuck. What a line. Haunts me. Haunts me, this
There
line.
is some straight up, just flat out beautiful poetry and like wonderful, wonderful script writing in this movie. Like beautiful lines of dialogue. Like even some of the romance stuff, even when the romance doesn't work, where I'm like, that is straight up nailing Shakespearean romance.
Yeah, I will say I skip the actual dance when they go to the dance, but I watch up until he says she looks like the Bible. When Jeremiah asked God to stop the sun, I would ask God to stop the moon, to hold your beauty. Like that's great stuff.
Yeah.
William, you don't need Chaucer. You came up with that all on your own. Why do you need Chaucer to write your letters later? You got this, William. William, you got this. Why'd you say she looks like Flanks halfway through the movie when earlier you said she looked like the Bible and made it work?
Yeah, halfway through the movie, they add this thing of like everyone else needs to write his nice things for him, but he didn't need that in the first while.
No, he was very good at telling her she was beautiful until he had to like think about it. I guess he's only good at improv.
Yeah.
He can't sit down and write a letter. I don't know what William's problem is. They write a hell of a letter.
Yeah, even like there's an original line, I think, when he like sees her from a distance and decides to go for her. It is one of his buddies, I think it was Mark Addy. I think it was like Roland, who like sees it all happen and is like, oh, you set your sights too high. And he goes, I would not know where else to look. And I'm like, I fucking love that. Just these little quick poetic turns of phrases. It's beautifully, flowingly written.
Yeah, Chaucer I think really adds to that too, because I think the language gets elevated when he arrived, and everyone else kind of elevates to his level, except maybe Watt, who I also just love.
Right.
Everyone is so good in this movie.
And to have that level of kind of like elevated dialogue as well, without ever quite crossing the line into stiff, I think is a very razor thin line to walk, and it does it.
Yeah.
To be like, we are flowing prose, and we are never stiff about it.
Yeah, really hard when you're all being British and you're getting these like flowy lines. Obviously, Paul Bettany has the most flowy lines, but he's the most loose about it. Yeah, we talked about how Jocelyn is too modern and doesn't work. But like the thing I love about this movie is that it doesn't care that it's done some things modern. It is not a slave to what actually the year 1300 was like. It's like, no, I'm going to play Queen music.
Yeah.
And I love Brian Helgeland's like reasons for it. He's like, I want you to feel what their music made them feel in 1300. They didn't play Queen, but their equivalent wouldn't make you feel this. So, and like the idea that the trumpets were playing the Queen music was so funny. So I love these like modern bits mixed in a way that just completely doesn't care. But he's still like, yeah, it's still a medieval movie, but we're going to be loosey-goosey and have some fun.
I think Lucy, and in the right way, where like it all thematically matches. Because it is a story about William kind of rejecting the system as it is and
modernizing the world and like moving out of the caste system.
Absolutely. And being like, it is now going to be like just based on, he's just going to prove himself, and it doesn't need to be based on royalty. And everyone who has that belief and is part of his team is modernized, including Jocelyn, who I guess is not necessarily of his political beliefs when they first met, but is meant to symbolize that they belong together, and she has the colorful hair and this sense of modernity. And what I really like, though, is that all of the characters who, I suppose it's just
mostly just Adamar.
and to a certain degree, Prince Edward?
Prince Edward, yeah.
Edward, have no aspects of modernity to them. Like they are 100% period piece costumes, no modern haircuts, no gold chains, no recent looks, no casual t-shirt. So
casual lines, nothing modern that they say.
Yes.
They're the most kind of Shakespearean along with Chaucer, but Chaucer's fun about it. They're just actually Shakespearean. Yeah.
So I do like that it's like the modern stuff represents what these characters represent and what they are going through. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great analysis. I love that so much.
I have just a question about the human actor Alan Tudyk.
Okay.
What color is Alan Tudyk's hair? Because
Why?
I sometimes forget, and like obviously you could just dye your hair and become anything, but did his natural hair color change, or is he always just getting perfect dye jobs now? Because I forget that there was like a 6-year run of his career where Alan Tudyk was the reddest redhead that you could hire to act in any job.
Oh, yeah, because
Like-
he's a redhead in Firefly.
Firefly is weird. Like he kind of transitions in Firefly.
I always think of him as a redhead.
Sometimes people's hair color does just change naturally over time, but in Firefly it's kind of like auburn changing to brown. And then after that, his career, it's just brown. And now it's brown transitioning to blonde. And it doesn't seem to be like role to role. It seems to be like human man Alan Tudyk has evolved into a different human man. And what blows my mind, though, that I'm like, it doesn't just feel like you dyeing your hair, is that over the years, like, his stubble and beard color has changed. And either he has the best hair and makeup people, like better than the individual projects that he is working on. He's bringing in his own outside people to do flawless shit.
Back in 2001 or like after Knight's
All
Tale?
of it.
All of it. Okay.
All of it.
Always had these people.
Or he is evolving into a different. It is just weird to see him here, and I'm like, that's a different man than Alan Tudyk today.
I kind of get what you're saying. I have a few theories. I will say this is the reddest, brightest red he will ever look. I will also say it's the longest his hair ever is. I think your hair can look a little less red when it's shorter. Like when you get it all long out and then it's like actually touching your very white skin, you're like, whoa, that's really, really, really red. This is also a movie that is set in stark daylight.
Right.
When he's on a set and it's kind of like a little shadowy on Firefly or on Resident Alien, which is set in like a cloudy mountainscape, I think it's easier to be like, oh, it's only a little bit red. But when you're in stark daylight and your hair's the longest it's ever been, I will say it's going to look the reddest it's ever been.
Okay.
Is my theories. Also, I think the sun can like make your hair like go blonde, make it go bright red.
Oh, for sure. Like you can get just naturally bleached hair just from too much sunlight or whatever
but
might happen.
Definitely never looks like this again.
Yeah.
This is a one-time, but he didn't make himself look like this for this movie.
This is what I'm saying.
That's what's weird about it.
This is
That's what's
what's
weird about it. I agree.
Is
But
that
this is
I
also
don't look at this image of him and say, oh, Alan Tudyk that they put a red wig on, or like,
Oh, no, that's his
Alan
hair.
Tudyk who they dyed his beard red. I don't think that. This is Alan Tudyk. And then I look at Alan Tudyk on like Resident Alien or something, and I'm like, you have like brown roots and frosted tips, but somehow you didn't get a hair dye. Like, I don't know. What are you,
He's
man?
magical. He is the resident alien. The hair changes
That is true.
if you're an alien on Earth, just with incredible comedic chops. I will also say I do think it is something about the sunlight, because this is also the most blonde and pale Paul Bettany's ever looked. He looks like he has no eyebrows in this film. He looks like Chris Hemsworth in Thor 1. Like he is completely washed out.
Yeah,
which
that
is not a look I've ever seen in him again. Every other time I've seen Paul Bettany, I'm like, eyebrows. But in this movie, nothing. Also, no clothes, so you get the whole look.
You got the whole everything. He really goes for it, huh? He unabashedly is flat out nude on these sets.
Absolutely, completely nude. More tips from the audio commentary. Paul Bettany does part of the audio commentary, and he's like, probably the scariest day of my life was the first day I had to be naked, and the PA comes up and he's got a sock and some tape, and he's like, I have to tape your penis to your leg so it won't swing into shots. And you just don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want your penis taped to your leg.
No, but you also don't want it swinging into
You
shots
don't want
either.
it swinging into shots.
Yeah, the scene where he steps on something
And he puts his own foot in his mouth?
Yes, while standing on one leg, while completely nude. And granted, you're in a sock with it taped to your leg, but that is I can't think of a worst position for the human body to be. The least flattering position for a nude male human body to be in.
There's nothing
is
worse.
standing on one foot while one foot is up in your own mouth.
And there's two things to consider here, which is the actor having to do that and the other actors watching that happen and responding to that. Because if his leg's coming up, he still has to be nude. He can't be wearing underwear and they just film from up because his leg's coming into the shot. So he's probably still completely nude doing this. And the actors are like, ooh, we just saw all of that happen.
Yeah.
I think even not nude, someone putting their own foot in their mouth. Gross. Weird.
Yeah.
Personal. Many things.
A little gross. Not ideal. Definitely not as vulnerable as the other option. Because the foot in the mouth, it's like, you're getting butthole, taint, balls, and dick. Like you're getting
all.
You're getting 100% of the downstairs package in that position.
The entire package.
Nothing's hidden.
The other actors all saw this, but then all the characters also saw this happen, and all three of those characters were like, "Yeah, he can join our crew. We've seen everything, and there are no surprises with this man, I guess. But also, no, you can't be in our crew."
It's all uphill from there, you know? You saw him at his
absolute lowest.
Absolute lowest.
And then you saw him at his lowest again when he went gambling again.
Yeah.
And they learn nothing, but they have compassion and they're kind.
They do. I think my only other real sincere criticism for this movie, I have like goof criticisms. Quick goof criticism. That opening card is completely unnecessary. The opening card that it's like, jousting is when two men are on horses and run at each other with a stick. I'm like, yeah, I'm not a fucking idiot who doesn't know the concept of a joust. And then it does have the like, at this particular point in time in history, only royals can do it. And I'm like, okay. But the first line of dialogue from Mark Addy is him walking up to William and being like, William, only royals can do it. And it's like, oh, well. So we didn't need the title card. That's just a goof negative.
Absolutely don't need the title card. Like, we saw the poster. Yeah. We knew it was about jousting.
I understand the concept, and everyone reiterates it 1,000 times. But my main criticism, the camera is way too close in a lot of this. I found like a lot of the camera work dizzying. So like what they're doing is they're setting the camera really far back and zooming in on the action because with the number of extras that they have, when you zoom in, it just kind of condenses everything in frame and makes it look a little more claustrophobic, and it makes audiences look fuller, and it makes movement look quicker and peppier as well. But it's too much. So there are scenes where like it's even just Heath Ledger, it's just William on his horse like fixing his gloves before he jousts. And the camera's kind of swinging left to right, not quite rotating around him. And the background is just moving at way too fast a rate because the lens is too much of a zoom. And I'm like, I think I'm actually going to fucking puke. Like, it feels like I'm on, like, a tilt-a-whirl. Like, it is just a bit too much. So I don't like a lot of the camera choices that they make in this movie. It's a little too claustrophobic, and it's spinning around too much. It's a little too dizzying.
Okay. I don't find myself dizzying. I will say some of the jousts, it's hard to see who won and like what is happening points-wise, but also it's very, very hard to film the horses and the jousting, and it's like no one is a jouster.
Right.
There are no jousters in the world. You just kind of have to do your best to like actually hit the guy. So they only had so many takes they could use. But yeah, I didn't find any of it overly nauseating or anything like that.
Yeah, there were moments where I'm just like, it feels like Michael Bay is filming a joust, and it's just a bit too much.
That's actually probably what they were going for. I mean, you can criticize it, but I think it was purposeful of like action movie.
It might have been. There were times where it was just dialogue and it was too much, but it might be a choice, but either way, I found it to be just a bit visually overwhelming for a movie that's just kind of so clean and simple to a certain regard.
Why
where
couldn't
it's
you just plant the camera?
Yeah, where it's just like we're doing a wide one shot of the scene in the church where it is just William and Jocelyn talking about what love is to one another. And it's like, okay, you're doing a wide stage play shot. Like, it's clean and simple. That's good. But it doesn't, the rest of the movie could stand to be like that a little bit more, I think.
He didn't want to film that way at all. They had no time in that church. Other stuff from the audio commentary. He wanted to do that in close-ups, and he was like, I literally have an hour.
See,
I have to do this as a stage play.
I think that is a beautiful accident because
it is beautifully like it works great. The silhouettes of them, you just see the whole fight happen in one big long take.
And when the dialogue of this movie gets closer to stiff but not quite there, when it's in its heavy flowing prose and not quite modern dialogue, it can feel very Shakespearean. And doing a stage left to stage right single shot play scene, I think is beautiful, and it works particularly for a love scene. Like, it does that camera and technique wouldn't work if it's a scene where like a nude Paul Bettany fell in some pig slop. Womp womp.
And you're 80 feet back.
Like it doesn't work. That's not a stage play. That's not Shakespearean.
But it's very Romeo and Juliet, like the moon and the sun and the stars.
I think it really I think that's a beautiful accident, and the film could have actually used a little bit more like that.
Well, I guess he had too much time for the rest of the scenes.
Yep, that's the problem.
I will say the only thing from all the times I've watched this movie that I cannot figure out is it's like a fairly small moment, but I do not know why Adamar looks really uncomfortable at the dance and then leaves. I just can't figure it out. He's watching everyone dance. He's like, oh, and then he gets all like shifty and shady, like he's having like a panic attack and leaves the dance. And I'm like, what's happening, my dude? Like, I know it turned out William could actually dance, but you've been attending dances for like your entire life. You've always been rich. You've always been going to these things. I sincerely don't know what just happened to you.
I took it as just random jealousy that he saw that like it wasn't so much that like, oh, I can't dance or like William can dance. He was just like, Jocelyn just chose to dance with this idiot. I'm fucking out of here. I'm out of here. Like, I'm going to go talk to the king about arranging my marriage to her. Like someone help, like daddy, I don't like this man.
Someone else's daddy.
Yes. So I think I took it as just jealousy, but I agree with you. It is just kind of a huffy walkout with any lines of dialogue.
It's not even that he's huffy. It does feel like he is having a panic attack to me, which is what was weird about it. If he was just huffy, like, I'd be like, yeah, huffy, jealous, cool,
right.
I get it. So maybe just some weird performance choices. That's actually what you just said brings me to one of the things I dislike the most about this movie, which is like never actually presented. It's just me overanalyzing it, which is that the final joust is not a competition to marry Jocelyn. Adamar has said, I'm in negotiations with her father. And at no point are they like, whoever wins gets to marry Jocelyn. I think Adamar is still going to marry Jocelyn. Because despite how William and Jocelyn feel about this world, the dad still gets to decide who you marry, probably.
Right. If they, unless they run off together, which I think is actually a distinct possibility.
They could. I mean, William doesn't run. Maybe now that he's a knight, he would. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I worry that in the next 20 minutes, Adamar's like, all right, time to get married. And now I'm really mad.
I see what you're saying. I think I'm actually glad that is not the direction that.
Well, no, that would be gross too.
Yes.
But there's not like Williams talked to your dad or like we have said we will run away together. It's like we're still very much in love, but also in this world we have not established that now I can marry you.
Yeah, I agree. It is this tough no man's land, especially for something that, even though this movie obviously has huge emotional highs, like reuniting with the father, or even some good romance moments, even though Jocelyn doesn't work for the most part, it is still a relatively lighthearted movie. And considering what is going on within the period, it is things that are gross in terms of arranged political marriages and women's rights. And it's like, to shine a spotlight on it makes the movie gross, but to ignore it ignores the grossness and just makes grossness sit quietly in the background. But it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing, where I do think it's a very difficult thing to either address or not address. And either way, the grossness is either up front and center or lingering in the background.
Yeah. I guess you could have like the prince marry them real quick.
Right.
You're not going to defy the prince.
Right.
The prince is like, these two are married.
Right.
They're fucking married.
I mean, not to do a what would you change, but like to sneak one in real quick. What I thought was going to happen and what I would have liked to happen is I thought Adhemar was going to be stripped of his titles by Prince Edward.
Ooh.
Because Adhemar...
That would take him off the table.
Well, because Adhemar disrespected the rules
with the
of the
tipped lamps.
tournament. Which is like... So I thought Prince Edward was going to be like, you tried to murder one of my knights in open combat, in open defiance to the rules of this tournament and exhibition in front of me and the royal family. You are stripped of knighthood and all of your titles, which would then leave him with no right to an arranged marriage with Jocelyn.
I love that. That would be some real comeuppance, because I also don't think anything else is going to happen to Adhemar. He lost his horse.
And that's it.
That's how this tournament ends.
He lost a fight and his horse. He is a little embarrassed, and he'll have to live with that. But yeah, I really thought they were going to strip him of his titles.
I love that.
For being in open defiance of all of the tournaments and royal rules in the middle of London.
I like that. I think the other option you could go to is it would be too long, but my funny option is, you know how when you like marry a lady, you get a dowry from the dad?
Sure.
I think like William could really lowball the bid. He would be like, I'll take $1.
Okay.
And Adhemar would be like, lots of dollars.
I understand. Okay.
And he's a knight now, so that helps.
Right. A dowry negotiation scene.
You got to underbid to get the contract.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'm with it.
Mm-hmm. It would absolutely work.
But yeah, I agree. I think they are still arranged to be wed. Although Adhemar was saying, like, I'm working on it. It wasn't a sealed deal. So leave it to your own imagination.
He also could have just been lying. He's Adhemar.
He's also a dick. You're right.
He's also a dick. He'll be in the middle of a fucking war and be like, who's winning the tournaments back home? Dude, there are arrows flying at you.
That was one scenario where I'm like, both Adhemar and William are both loser assholes. And like, I know I'm not supposed to like the villain, but I also don't like William, that he's going from like tournament to tournament. He's like, but I only want to beat Adhemar. I can't believe that selfish asshole is currently in a pile of shit in a tent fighting a war. And I'm not saying that the war was just. I don't know what the fuck he's doing at the time, but like, why are you're jealous that he is off to maybe die? I don't know.
I don't quite enjoy how quickly William becomes entitled and very very full of himself very quickly. Like, I deserve Jocelyn. I deserve to defeat Adhemar. Just very entitled very quickly, which is, again, why I kind of liked that Jocelyn put him in his place and made him lose one tournament. Like, he needed that. He needed that reality hit because he just came from nothing. And he's like, I deserve to defeat the champion of every other tournament I've ever seen. Why is he at war? But you're absolutely right. He should be gloating so hard. He's like, I'm drinking wine and winning horses, and I am Jocelyn, and Adhemar's in a fucking mud pit getting arrows thrown at his head. This is great.
And because everything he does is a farce, he has no real obligations. Like, when they're like, all of these other people are knights or are royalty. Mm-hmm. And granted, that comes with incredible privilege in an unjust society, but it does mean that they have other jobs to return to in privileged lives, but jobs nonetheless. A kingdom to rule and take care of, occasional wars to go fight. And he's like, fuck all these people. I'm the best. It's like, yeah, you're a ringer. You are someone who's like, now I'm going to go home and take care of my kingdom before the next bout. And you just hide in the woods and practice. You have no real obligations.
Yeah, he gets 100% practice time. He's like a professional athlete taking on like amateurs.
Yeah.
Because the other knights and the dukes and the lords, they have to like do taxes and they got to travel around and go to war. And he's like, 100% of the time, I'm training. I only go to tournaments. Like, yeah, he is. He's a professional tournament jouster. And the rest of them, I'm like, I'm a politician who works out sometimes.
Yeah.
levels. No wonder he's winning.
Well, it's almost like what sports was like pre the 60s when it's like what was like, like hockey in the 1950s. It's like our goalie is also an accountant. This is professional hockey. It's like, there wasn't money enough in it to be a full-time job.
Maurice the Rocket Richard moved furniture for a living.
Right.
Was the impression I got from the one Heritage moment I've seen.
And when people are like, a modern athlete's better than historically Hall of Fame athletes, it's like, yeah, they also had day jobs. Do you realize how insane that is? Can you imagine, like, one of the greatest NHL players moving furniture? Can you imagine if you booked a moving company and it was LeBron or something? Like, that would be completely incomprehensible. So,
and just the idea that you're like doing back-breaking work before you go do a professional sport also.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so he's broken the system in the game. Yeah, he doesn't have any real obligations and gets entitled very quickly.
He does, and then he gets put back in his place because it's a movie with good arcs and good laughs, and I adore it.
I had a lot of fun.
I did have
Paul Bettany is a goddamn delight. The comedy in this really pops. I like the combat. I like the jousting. Heath Ledger is an absolute star. Really, the romance was the only thing that didn't pop for me, and it could have been 20 minutes shorter. But we'll get into the changes here now in a second.
I still completely agree with all that. I skipped those scenes, as I said.
Wonderful. Well, let's formalize it. Let's ask the question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? Before we do ask the final question, we're going to remind you, as we do every week.
Every week, you guys.
Follow, subscribe, and review on wherever you get your podcasts.
Wherever. If it's wherever this is, wherever somewhere else is, somewhere that leaves a review. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you can leave reviews now. Podcast Addict, I think Stitcher. Most places you can at least leave a rating. Not all the places you can leave like a written one, but if you can,
leave a written one. Even if it's just the word noise, just be a plate of soup and go leave a rating and review. It's a free way to support this podcast, and it really warms our heart and means a lot to us.
It means a lot to us, and it impresses other people who might be on the fence about listening.
Ooh la la.
Push them over that fence like Paul Bettany pushed Wash.
Yeet. Get
Wash,
a shove in
not
there.
Wash. His
Wash.
characters have very similar names.
So do that. Free way to support the podcast. If you want to support the podcast monetarily, you can check us out over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service where you can get exclusive bonus content depending on your subscription level. You can get things like a bonus episode of this podcast every single month. You can get our webcomic early. There's other exclusives there. And as well, you're not locked in. You can change and move around or cancel your subscription at any point. So if you want to listen to some of our bonus episodes this month, you can hit the hero level, listen to as much as you can. You get access to the whole back catalog of the exclusive episodes. If your budget changes next month, you can cancel that. You can drop it down to $1. You can take care of you. Don't even worry about it.
Don't even worry about it. And you get access to all of them right away. This month we did The Witcher Season 2. We didn't have time to do it back in December, so you get a whole Witcher one, and you get access to everything that we've never done on the regular podcast. So it's full-length episodes, no ads, all just waiting for you over at Patreon. And you can also vote in our poll at patreon.com.
Yes, you don't even need to be a paying patron. You can just go over there and vote. So next week's episode is going to be a fan vote, an audience vote, and you can choose between National Treasure 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, Goonies, or Indiana Jones. And that poll will be up right now over on our Patreon page at patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. That's patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. Go there, vote on the poll, and if it's in the budget, chip in a little.
Yeah, we'd love that. Thank you so much to our patrons.
Thank you very much. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change? Diana, what would you change?
Two little changes. So mostly, I think we need to cut some Jocelyn stuff for time. They do have they have a fight, then there's a letter, then there's another fight where he has to lose a tournament. I think that whole section can be cut to just one fight. I think maybe cut the letter, because I actually like that, she makes him face that he's become an asshole by losing one tournament. I don't think he has to get hit that many times. Jesus. Maybe just lose one fight, just take a couple lances to the face. So I think we can definitely shorten up the Jocelyn argument part in the middle. It's going to move the movie along a little more. I would like to see Adamar introduced as a villain earlier and also be a little bit more villainous. We kind of just don't like Adamar because he's a little cocky. which William also is. Like, they're both going for Jocelyn, but until he stabs him in the final fight, he doesn't do anything wrong. He's just better at jousting. I would really like if he was maybe like an old enemy of Sir Ector's or something and didn't even recognize William because he doesn't look at squires. Like, if there was just some kind of like also like class thing going on there where he maybe like, I don't know, he got Sir Ector excommunicated and that's why Sir Ector was doing shitty like far away tournaments. Like, if there was some kind of like old history here of not just like we're both fighting over the same woman we hardly know. I think there could be more history to this and make it more personal, and he could be a little bit more villainous off the top so we don't have to wait for him to stab William to actually be mean. So yeah, I think there could be more there of like, I love the idea that he doesn't even recognize William, even though he like has jousted against him as a squire, maybe. So those are my biggest changes for A Knight's Tale.
I love that. I love
you.
that. I mean, obviously, I was on board beforehand for the Jocelyn stuff doesn't work, and we can cut a lot of it for time. And then the Adamar change, I adore. I'm 100% on board.
Thank you so much. I liked your change earlier a lot of Adamar gets his titles taken away. I don't know if that's your change right now. But Andrew, what is your change?
I mean, we can keep that.
Love that.
If we're both going to do two quick ones, it's fewer Jocelyn. Adamar gets his title stripped. I think my big change is I want more for Kate, the blacksmith.
Yeah, Kate's great.
So I honestly think that the Jocelyn love story doesn't work, and I'm fine with Kate not having a love story. But if this movie needs to have a love story, it should be Kate, and Jocelyn needs to be cut completely.
Ooh.
I don't care about Jocelyn at all, and it makes no sense why these two have any interest in one another, because it does feel like Jocelyn represents the exact system and society that William does not like or care about one bit. And it doesn't feel like she's rejecting her current society to join William's cause, whereas Kate is infinite parallels with William. Like, it is frankly remarkable how much these two have in common that are completely unexplored, which is two people who have a gift for a job that they are not allowed to do, both of whom believe that society needs to shift to a meritocracy as opposed to a class-based system. He's like, I want to do jousting, but they won't let me. And she's like, I want to be a blacksmith, but the sexist society won't allow me. Here, let me show you how good I am at the thing that I'm not allowed to do in this world.
And no one will buy my armor, and no one will.
And he's like, let me show you the thing that I'm good at that no one will let me do in this world. What if we both did them in secret together and showed everyone that we are the fucking best and that our society needs to move on? Like, these two are the same character, but different enough that like it is delectable. I love the parallels between these two. And I think she even has a line as well where like she implies that like she's lost her family too.
So there, audio commentaries. Back in the day, women were not allowed to be blacksmiths. They only could be a blacksmith if their husband died. She could inherit his business. So her husband was a blacksmith and he died and she inherited his business. That's the only way you could be a blacksmith back then.
Right.
So they gave her that backstory. I don't know about the rest of her family, but that's what happened to her husband.
Right. Okay.
And she's from Ireland and they're in like mainland Europe. So they're obviously not around.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's a great point. It doesn't have any like, there's nothing in the way of them being together. So it doesn't like fight the class system in that way. But I agree that they're much better for each other. The idea that I can't be a knight because I can't afford armor. And she's like, I can't sell my armor because no one will buy it from a woman. And then he becomes a knight in her armor that no one else would buy. Is like
and pays
brilliant.
her with the money that he's winning while wearing her armor.
Yeah. And if someone admires it and wants it, like, and then finds it from a woman, it's like, well, you have to get armor from a woman then. Like, there is so much to mine there. You're absolutely right.
If anything, I agree with you. There's not necessarily in that romance an inherent conflict. If Jocelyn were to stay in that version of script, she would be the conflict. Like, Jocelyn would be and I thought and hoped that the movie would go this direction. Jocelyn would be like the last representation of William clinging onto a system and an ideal that doesn't make any sense. You know, it's the classic, like, I don't notice the best friend kind of storyline for a romance, which could work. So Jocelyn could work as a distraction from what we as an audience and me as a viewer of this movie was rooting for, which was like, spend more time with this incredibly awesome person whose story parallels yours, please. And who is a better performer and a better character and much more fleshed out in every regard.
Yeah, she
More
is
Kate.
awesome. I don't know if that's a tough one because like I like Kate alone. I like her just like living her best single life and as a successful woman, but I agree she's much better for William.
Yeah, like
It's a tough one.
I'm fine with a few variations. Delete Jocelyn and have a platonic friendship between Kate and William where they show the parallels more.
Ooh, I'm cool with that.
You know, if you're dead set on a romance, but either way, it's like Kate is the primary focal point of this story for how much she parallels the storyline of William.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about Kate. I love that.
Sweet.
What a wonderful analysis.
I think we've nailed it.
I think we Knight's Tailed it.
We did it. Well, that's going to be it for this week for the Diana pick of A Knight's Tale. We're going to be back next week. We are doing a treasure hunt movie that is based on an audience vote. You can vote for it right now over on our Patreon page. You do not have to be a patron to vote. So you can just go over patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, patreon.com/fromsuperheroes, and you'll be able to vote on what we're doing next week. It is either National Treasure 2, Pirates of the Caribbean, Goonies, or Indiana Jones.
And it's Pirates of the Caribbean if you're nasty.
Yes.
There's two ways.
There's two ways. So go vote for that right now, patreon.com/fromsuperheroes. And the winner we will be covering next week on the podcast. So that is it for us. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can reach me on Twitter at Ivimey, Ivimey.
Me, you can find me at Words of Diana.
And you can reach both of us at From Superheroes. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.